Welcome to the live stream of consciousness. The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question, what is consciousness? Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Yes, welcome to the live stream of consciousness. I love welcoming you to the live stream of consciousness because I love being here at the live stream of consciousness every Thursday. Today is Thursday, December 5th, right? We've all collectively agreed to designate this moment as that, so we knew where to be and when to be there. That's how we work as humans. We like designate things to have meanings and names and all of that stuff. But that's I'm just joking with you guys. I'm really here on a quest to tap into the power that resides within you and everybody here. What's up, Arnie Layton? I see Arnie, I see Angelo, I see Grace. Everybody's coming together. I love it. This community is growing. People actually being here. Time doesn't exist. Angelo and I were talking about that as well. I love talking about those things. I guess that's really where this show started from. But again, I'm super excited. The energy is going. The universe is doing all sorts of interesting things. It has been for a while, I think, in general, with the world. But for me now, I think a lot of things are happening, transitions. Helen is back. What's up, Helen? She has missed everybody. It's good to see you. A lot of things are happening, right? So the whole idea of closing one door so that other doors can open. You know, sometimes you hold a door open and you stay in a situation because it feels comfortable and that's where you think you want to be and it's secure. And because you're holding that door open, you're not allowing other doors to open. And that's kind of what I'm going through. The cool thing is the constant, which is the live stream of consciousness, right? That's me, that's this show, that's this moment, that's you being here, whether you're live or watching the replay. So I've just reminded myself to do the business part of reminding you, give me a comment if you're here, hashtag live in the comments, even the YouTube comments, not the chat. That helps the algorithm recognize that something's happening, something's tickling the algorithm and something's happening. And so maybe more people would be attracted to come join these conversations. I had a great, amazing time. For anybody who was there or who tuned in to the live stream of consciousness on Sunday from the Holiday Inn in Plainview, the Empowered Path Expo. What an amazing time I had. What an amazing energy it was to just walk into the room and feel the energy and feel the love. And again, the whole idea of community and intention. And that's why people gather in a certain place, you know, like-minded, all that stuff. Actually, I thought of this kind of cool thing, right? You know, the saying, hurt people, right? Like if you're a hurt person, you tend to hurt other people because that's just what your frequency is, right? And once you heal people, healed people. But I thought of this one. I thought of like-minded people, like-minded people, like-minded people, like-minded people. Because I know I like people with their mind, who use their mind and have these conversations. So anyway, again, it's Thursday. It's the live stream of consciousness. Thank you guys for being in this moment. But it is actually 9:04, which means I've babbled a minute longer than I usually do before introducing my guest. My guest was one of the vendors who was at the show and created this entity, I guess, called Alien Starseed. And Cassandra, Christine, welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, yes, my pleasure to have you. I'm so excited. The community is growing, the energy is growing. We've been talking probably on and off, like just missing each other for over a year. You've been talking about how divine timing just brought you to that expo. And I do think that it was actually meeting me in person and us actually having a live energy exchange that, just elevated the vibration of you and I actually being able to have this conversation. So here we are. We're excited to have this conversation. Ninja Kitty saying welcome, Cassandra. Angela, Cassandra gave me my first reading, and he takes classes with you. He's a great teacher. Awesome. I love that too. I love the cheerleader aspect of this community. When you meet somebody that you vibe with, that like you can resonate with, it becomes, you're more in tune with that. You're like, ooh, I kind of like this person a little extra. They've got something that, resonates with me. And then you exchange that, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Willingly, and not willingly, excitedly. You're excited to interact with that person because you're in tune with that energy.
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
that's
This
what's
this
going on.
community is beautiful for that. It's really like that rolling wave really tends to happen. You get the good word out, but it's really not a good word. It's a good vibe. It's good
Yes,
vibration. And then that vibration rolls and rolls, and then you tend to collect, all of the same vibration with you. It's pretty
totally,
cool.
totally. And actually, that's funny because as you said that, what we were talking about, Sunshine Show, which was, what was it called? Something with the ripples. I had remember we were brainstorming that name together. Uh, I know it's something with the ripples.
The
Uh,
ripple connection.
the ripple connection, yes.
Mhm.
And it's so true. It's like, once you send those ripples out, they cross, they come back, and everything. It's all part of the flow. Um,
Mm.
so I know you said Angela was making you nervous, telling you he's going to ask you all sorts of questions, but that's where the show started. So I kind of try to keep it true to that. I love that question though, because I don't feel like there's a wrong answer. I feel like everybody's got their own perspective, their own perception of what the answer is, and that's what makes it so cool. I think. So that question is, what is consciousness? What are we talking about when we talk about consciousness?
I'm glad I had a chance to think about it because consciousness is the act of being aware. But what are you conscious of? Are you aware of yourself, aware of your surroundings? Consciousness, when you ask that question in context, can mean so many different things. If
Mhm.
you're speaking about soul work, are you aware of your soul? Are you aware of your galactic surroundings? Are you aware of your soul origin? Are you just conscious of your physical surroundings in the linear? That word is so vast. The definition just goes beyond.
Yes.
You
It,
know?
it, you know what? And that's the thing also I love. It seems like a lot of times when you ask someone that question, it could be overwhelming, right? Like, oh my God, a deer in headlights. But the truth is, anybody who's been nervous to answer that question, once they get past that moment and just let it go, that's
Mm,
consciousness happening, right? That's
yeah.
consciousness happening. They've got to process the question, they've got to give their definition and be aware of, okay, I'm having this exchange of ideas and thoughts and being in that moment. So that's awesome. I love that's a great answer.
I
um
love that question. It may be a question that I may be asking too, just to see where people are at. Like where's their consciousness at that moment? Like where,
yeah,
you know?
exactly. And that kind of leads me to the second question, which goes into today, who you are and everything we were talking about, alien starseed and what that all means and where that comes from. And the
Mm.
question I like to ask is if you have a story, a moment, a memory of when you realized that there was something more to life than kind of being human and the three-dimensional aspect of that.
I'm going to tell you this started when I was a little girl. I would sit in my room and have these out of body experiences. I had my mother always decorated my room really beautiful, very girly.
Mm,
And I would, sit on the bedspread. I'm not supposed to be on the bedspread. And I remember I'm sitting there and I'd look at my dresser and I couldn't believe that I was looking at furniture. Like I couldn't believe that I was a human being looking at things, but I never really understood what was going on with me, why I felt so separate from my body at that time.
Hmm.
You know, my awakening to my psychic abilities, my awareness didn't begin until my mid 20s,
Mm-hmm.
when a medium had told me, I see spirit differently. She looked at me, she goes, you see spirit differently. And the way that that activated was, my cousin had passed away from cancer, and we were close, like brother and sister, him and his brother, were only a year apart each. We went to school together, we were very close. My aunt had a medium come, and we're all
Right.
sitting at the table, not thinking anything of it. And she points to me like immediately and says, you see spirit differently. You need to see this woman who did psychic circles, healing circles, and meditation circles and things along those lines. And that's where it really truly began, or my awareness woke up to it, because I was always walking in those footsteps. Art was always my thing. I went to, FIT. I all through high school, I did art classes. Dancing school was like my favorite thing in the world. I loved being a ballerina.
Yeah.
It was like always art, creating, being in that energy made my soul feel good, but I didn't know why.
Well, so let me stop you for a second, because that just what you're saying. I didn't at first. Did you say you see scared differently? So, and then you said it again. So I was like, yes, that's what she said. So I'm imagining what you're talking about is like you perceived the feeling of being scared was. You kind of understood that as a concept, and you were able to kind of view it differently than most people and
seeing
experience it differently.
seeing spirit differently. You see spirit differently in that aspect. But yeah, like the way that I would feel emotions was very different than how other people felt them. But I never understood that. I never understood why others didn't have compassion and empathy the way that I did. Like just looking at someone and feeling that compassion, feeling that empathy, like my heart wanting to pour out for them, and other people in my life and my family being so, like their light switch being off and not having those emotions or that
Okay.
compassion, not being able to see it and feel it.
Right. Okay. So you said so I thought you said scared, but you said spirit. Okay.
Spirit.
So so now I understand. But yeah, okay. So having that connection from a very young age and seeing it different and kind of beyond, I guess what the norm is imaginary friends and that kind of thing, right? So you understood it more than what you were being told it was. You were kind of like, no, I know what this is. I'm not, it's not imaginary.
No, and that existed as well when I was little. My
Mhm.
mother, because they tell the stories all the time. Remember when that little girl used to say the little girl Sarah was with you? I'm like, yeah, I
Mhm.
distinctly remember her in the house before
Mhm.
my parents divorced. 'Cause my parents divorced when I was about 4 years old.
Oh wow.
Remember her polka dotted dress, her red and white polka dotted dress, and she would sit with me in the room, at my tea table,
Mm.
and I
Wow.
would have tea with her. They would have to leave a space for her at the table when, when we were having dinner for Sarah. So yeah,
Mhm.
but I think it's a common story, maybe common, for a lot of people, that you have these abilities. Everyone has it. We're all born with these beautiful innate abilities.
I believe that.
Through my adolescent years, they kind of shut down in a way
Mhm.
because I didn't have any guidance. However, I was still writing poetry. I was
Mhm.
still
Mhm.
creating my art. I was very deep into it, but there was a bit of a depression, a bit
Mhm.
of a not understanding of what was going on with me and why those emotions were the way that they were.
Mhm.
So I didn't have like the proper guidance at that time. Luckily, through an unfortunate event, I had a guide come to me and, set me in the right direction where
Mhm.
someone can help me. And as soon as I learned what meditation was,
Mhm.
the world opened up,
Mhm. Mhm.
opened up. My chakra system, I never knew what that was.
Mhm.
Well, my poetry was really automatic writing, and I
Mhm.
didn't know what that
Mhm.
was.
Mhm.
Why
Absolutely.
why the writings were different, the handwriting was different. As I looked through the poetry, I would start to realize, oh my God, yes, the handwriting is different. It's
Yeah.
not always the same.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of creative people, that's why a lot of creative people are kind of spiritual and kind of just think more that way, and are more connected. I don't want to say more connected, but or just like kind of, they vibrate that way. And I think, for me, the same thing, I realized many years later, oh, wow, when I was playing in a band with my friends, connecting with them, I would describe it, to other people like, oh, it's like a dance, it's like a conversation, it's really this moment of flow, kind of like you're saying. But I didn't realize until later that that was channeling, that was, connecting to source and being in that moment,
Yeah.
with the collective, with the people that were with me. So yeah, that's beautiful. And then I think you also bring up an important point too, is guidance, right? So finding the right person to let you know exactly kind of what's going on in a way that you understand it, right? Because I feel like, and we discussed this a little bit, I feel like all of these concepts are being presented in so many ways. You kind of bring all of that together, as far as specifically when I talk about cosmic and galactic concepts and angelic concepts and spiritual concepts, spirit, the other side. And then I also say even like interdimensional beings, you know what I mean? It's all kind of iterations of the same thing, just how it appears and how it understands and makes sense to your human brain, wherever that might be. And everybody's different, everybody's in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's why I love this and these conversations, because I'm learning more about what the possibilities are, right? When I saw that you did something, it was a video with Sarah Curley, who's one of my favorites. I love Sarah so much, and I think interacting with her and finding out about her really opened up my mind and my perspective to a lot of things, because I had seen trans channels on YouTube, 15 years ago, and
Mm.
talking about the Galactic Council, and being
Mm.
like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. Maybe not for me, it's a little far out for me, and I'm not saying that I understand it completely now, but I definitely resonate with it now, and I don't look at it and I'm not turned off by it. I'm more intrigued by it, if anything, than turned away from it, because I don't know, because I guess of my own vibration, right? My own ability to kind of accept things and open up to things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So okay, so you started, I want to get to where you're at now, which is a big jump, I think. But you started getting some guidance. How did you start leaning towards your own galactic origins and things like that? Like,
So it was never an idea of mine. It was the furthest thing from my mind's extraterrestrial. I had no clue. When this first began, I just started going to classes and learning how to meditate. And honestly, this is the reason why meditation is so important, because it's picking up the phone to spirit. I was learning how to meditate and I was taking this class, and it just like opens up like the world to me, my automatic writing and channeling for other people. But it's going through a lot of deep layers as well. As you heal, as you start to unveil those deep layers, going into the energetic centers of your body, understanding where your life is, what your life is, Spirit's going to give you what you need at that time. And literally, I was always attracted to the galactic form. I just never really understood what it was, and I never really knew what a soul origin was. This wasn't even an idea of mine. I always thought heaven, because I was raised Roman Catholic and Greek Orthodox, and you pray to God, and I was always religious and loved Jesus, and I still love Jesus and pray. But it was through a random meditation. And it was years later. This is years of practice, a few years of practice. So going to different meditative circles, automatic writing, learning what Gaia television is. I explored a gentleman named Corey Good, who was talking about the Galactic Council and the Blue Avians. And once I became to that understanding, the floodgates opened up. They're like, she knows, opened up. It's like, woof, came to me.
wow.
And it was a random meditation in a class that had nothing to do with extraterrestrials. And the experience was, I was in this beautiful place and it was just filled with love, and it was just a knowing, but I saw everything as well. And I saw myself above all of these people and telling them I was given so much here that I'm going to sacrifice myself for you. But when I came out of the meditation, I knew my origin, I
Mhm.
knew my purpose, I knew where I was from, I knew
Mhm.
the colors. I could paint them for you in a second. It was
Wow.
just this picture that I will never forget, and this feeling of love that is eternal. It's
Wow.
an unconditional love. And I had a spiritual awakening, like a spiritual experience that I've never spoken about. Well before, I'll share it here. It was well before this awakening happened. So it was a few
Okay.
years before. And I remember I was in my apartment and I think I had fallen asleep on the couch. I had woken up. It was like somebody sat me up. I could hear a choir of angels singing behind me. I couldn't even tell you if my eyes were open or not, but all I saw was this beautiful golden light around me. And it's nothing that you could replicate here. It looked like diamonds and gold. It was just beautiful. And it was a feeling of safe that you could just never imagine. It was untouchable safety. And
Mhm.
I just felt like this embrace of love. And I knew, now I know that that was probably the initiation of the awakening, because I remember the ringing in my ear and it just started there. And I remember I written it in my book and I still have that little book and I kept it. I was like, I never talk about that experience. You know, I seem to forget
Yeah.
it, but when it happened, I was like, please do it again. I would do anything.
Yeah, it's interesting because I want to say out loud, I'm kind of envious, right? But I'm very specific with my words, and I'm not envious, but I am. What I mean by that when I say that is, I understand a lot of what you're talking about, right? So this idea of unconditional love and this bliss that is described by near death experiences and all sorts of different experiences, right? even
Yeah.
even alien abduction experiences
Yeah.
and other experiences that are described that way. I totally get that. I feel like I can conjure that in my mind, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, when I meditate. I understand the idea of meditation and how that can totally open up your world and kind of change your understanding of things. It allows you to get off of that hamster wheel that I think we are placed on. I don't think we intentionally get on it. Maybe we do. I don't know, but that's a whole other conversation. But I hear all of that. But when I say I'm envious, it's because I feel like I haven't gotten that phone call. Like, hey, it's me, your higher self, and here's the story, right? Here's your origins. So that's why I love talking to people like you who have these experiences, and then you have all of these different ways that you express it, right? And we haven't even gotten into talking about
Yeah.
the light language and your artwork and stuff. So I want to get there eventually as well.
Okay.
um I Angelo is asking a question. I don't know if you've heard this one from him before. It's the first time I'm hearing him ask this. He said Bashar said in his last video the Palladians will make contact in 2027, and what are your thoughts?
I I'm going to tell you, I'm going to agree. In what form will they be making contact? Because they're already making contact. They're already present and very prevalent here on Earth in different life forms. So my question is, what form do you think they're going to be making contact in?
Mm-hmm,
ET
hmm
form? Because they're already here in soul origin.
hmm See, and that's a great answer. I feel like I agree. I feel like they talk about all of these things that are happening right now, and some people describe it as a shift, a vibrational shift, and okay, I get that. I can see that description and I can understand where it's being applied. Some people talk about disclosure, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think that's what we're crossing over with right now, because I think disclosure isn't going to be like, okay, here's the ships and everything. I think it's going to be more about the knowledge and the understanding of what it all means in relation to us and as human beings, you know what I mean? And
I was going to say it's about awakening and it is about awareness. That is what the cusp of this volcanic, eruption of spiritual change that's going to be happening on this beautiful planet. It
mhm,
is acceptance, it is awakening, and it is awareness.
mhm.
But I think
And
most importantly, it's the acceptance part.
Yeah, a million percent. And again, I feel like it's just a matter of how this is presented, right? So in the spiritual community, for the last bunch of years, you've been hearing about this shift from the 3D to the 5D, and the way people describe it, you almost think like, well, there's going to be this physical difference, and something is going to happen, and it's not really going to be, in my mind. It's going to be more about perception and your brain's capacity to understand new ways of thinking about things that
Yeah.
we haven't before.
But I'm going to tell you, once you learn to understand, think differently, the world, the way that you view it changes completely.
Right. So it's almost a metaphor, right? Like you
Mhm.
understand things different. Things are still physically the same, but you relate to those things differently. You perceive them differently. You know, your relationship with them is differently, right? I mean, even like, I mean, maybe this is a exaggeration, a far-fetched thing, or maybe not, but just the idea of, okay, I can now elevate, I can now not teleport, but what's the word I'm looking for, just levitate. I can levitate, right? I can just levitate in the air. I can't imagine that right now, but imagine that I could, and all of a sudden I don't know, not being able to levitate. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like that's my new perception. Like, oh, that's just part of being, is levitating. Uh,
yeah,
I think that's kind of the idea of how the change is going to happen, which is exciting, right? There's so much fear and stuff going on right now about this, and I think even in some spiritual circles, there's like these ideas of, oh, this is not gonna be good, but I'm excited. I think it's gonna be good.
yeah. I think those who are in awareness also have a responsibility to hold space for those who may have fear, to hold that space of calm, to hold the space of peace, of understanding, and to most importantly, hold that space of love and compassion. Because any change can bring fear. It's just a natural thing.
Yeah.
So energy, it's everywhere. We're exuding energy. We'll hold space while we watch the shifts. So when you're in awareness, hold space and hold love. It's
Yeah.
only natural to see those who are maybe not aware to be fearful.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. No,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I think that's what's great about, kind of, again, that's where I'm envious. Like, who you are, right? And you feel very connected to these things that you've been told or shown, or I would say you just feel and know. I would say it doesn't matter if you were shown or what told, like you
Nope.
just feel it and you know it and you're connected to it. So your essence becomes that, and everything that you do and create is about it. Your interactions with other people, is all about who that is, and so that's why I love that. I think it's great. Helen says, I levitate in dreams, so I know how that feels. And you know what, I'm right with you, Helen. I also levitate in dreams, and that's how I know how it feels. I mean, being dreams are another part of being. And oh, Jennifer's out there. What's up, Jennifer?
Hi, Jennifer.
uh Awesome. All right. So you were told who you are and your origins. So tell us about that. Tell us about your origins and where that led you, and then maybe we could start talking about some of your artwork. If that leads into that, we can.
Sure, because it's a long journey. But when that happens, I sat on my couch for a little while because beings were coming to me. I was connecting with Galactic Source. And I'm like, who talks about this? Because nobody talks about this. I'm like, I will be ridiculed to the T if I say anything.
Mhm.
And I was getting frustrated. I literally looked at my cell phone, and Eyes of Learning, my mentor, was teaching that Friday about the Pleiadians and about the archangels.
Okay.
So I asked for
Oh,
help, and they served it on a silver platter. I'm like,
nice.
all right. I'm like, so I went, and I remember seeing her, and it's Sandy Janota. And I remember seeing her, and she looked at me, she goes, I knew you were going to be here. She goes, but you had to come to me. I couldn't come to you. And I was like,
Wow.
wow. And, everything that she was discussing was what I seen and what I saw. I was so happy because I knew I wasn't making it up. She didn't know me from anything. And she's discussing all of these beautiful beings and this beautiful soul origin and all of the gifts that they are able to bestow here and the things that they showed me to help heal the earth while we're doing our work also.
Mhm.
I started taking her classes. I took a mentorship program, and I remember walking into the room and hearing all for one and one for all. And I looked at her, I'm like, who's that? She goes, that's council. I'm like, who's council? And this is where it all came in. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, but it was like once that door is open, they know that you're ready because they're giving you the information. But I just remember that all for one and one for all. And it
And so
was
that was that you heard it like a voice, like a
like a
voice
voice.
is.
That was it. It was like the
Wow.
initiation. Like I walked right in, all for one and one for all. To be
Wow.
of service to humanity, truly service of humanity and the galactic form, to bring them together in peace as one.
I love that. I love that. And I always say, and outside of the spiritual blah blah blah, this, that, the other thing, I always say we're all in this together. And it's just like the most obvious freaking thing to me, right? It's like, we're in society that conditions us to compete with each other and get this, and you got to get the latest, and you got to do all this stuff and be better than other people and compare. And it's like, we're
No.
all in this together. We're all, we're all
Yeah.
in this together. And that's, once people realize that, which I think is what's happening, I think, all of these things, I'm all in. Yes, John Smith is out there. I'm all in. Jennifer Rose, how beautiful. Yeah, I think that's it. Acceptance. You said it yourself, right? The acceptance of, I can't imagine how it would feel to be like, I can't talk about this, right? To know who you are and to know these feelings that you have and not be able to talk. So you must be ecstatic that at least there's communities out there, there's people that you can talk to, and it's not hidden really anymore. You know what I mean? You can almost, you could make a flyer and put it up on Facebook, and who cares what the people who don't resonate with it think, right? Because now there are people who resonate with it.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I caught a lot of flack for Alien Starseed, and still do a little bit from family members, but I'm not going to stop because I know what's right in my heart. And honestly, it was almost like an unconscious thing when it happens. They're giving you bits and pieces as you're asking me questions. So I'm like, so I went to this step and then this happens. But truly, when Alien Starseed was born was during the pandemic. This is when my website came to surface. This is when my first mermaid painting came to surface. I worked as a paralegal. I'm still a paralegal. And I was furloughed for 3 months from my law firm. But it was in a way that I knew I was getting my job back, because my boss was like, leave everything on your desk. You're still going to have your health insurance. Don't worry about it. I was still getting a paycheck. So it was really like I was getting paid to stay home. It was an amazing feeling. And we discussed this briefly too. It was the most peaceful feeling of calm. And I was working on the one mermaid, Alien Starseed, because that's her name. And I remember sitting in my room, and it was just a feeling like, and I had nothing to lose. So I'm like, oh, I just feel like drawing another mermaid's tail. So I drew her, and I wanted her big. I wanted her like 18 by 24. And I would walk to the beach every day, because it was only half a mile from me, and that's my favorite place in the world. It is my sanctuary, to be by the salt water and the sand. And I'd meditate on the rocks, put my feet in the water, walk back home, and work on my artwork. And that's really where it was born. It came from that painting. When I was done with it, I was like, I don't want to work on this anymore. I thought I was making mistakes. There were so many layers of paint in that tail, like 4 or 5 layers of like watercolor, acrylic. The top part was like a yin and yang, now that I noticed it, because I was like, oh, I hated that part. I thought I was making a mistake. I remember a friend saying, but that's my favorite part. Like that was her favorite part. So
I'm looking for which one it is, because they're not
can I show you?
They're not labeled here. Yeah. I want to bring
So
it up.
it's the one that has all the symbology in the tail.
Okay.
One of my little guides is in there. Not her. That's frequency shift.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, the names are on the bottom, so that's what I was looking for.
That's my Aria goddess. See, that was one of my first mermaids. Very, very first mermaid.
It might not be one of the ones I picked. Is that the one?
She was the very, very first one.
Oh, that's not one of the ones that I grabbed. All right.
So I have it on the the oracle card, and I can show it to you.
Okay.
May not show up great, but
Hang on a second. Let me see if I can also.
see if you can find it on my website. But this is
Yeah, but I could also do this. Hold on. There we go. Make you bigger. There we go. All right.
so you can see that's the cover of my oracle.
Okay, I see which one it is. Yeah, I'm gonna grab it now. Let's see, open image in new window, and I'll pop it in here. Boom, and now I can share it. Share screen, window, and there we go. Beautiful. There we go.
There she is. So that's the cover of the oracle card deck. So I was just working on her. Now I spoke light language a lot, and for the most part, I spoke light language to myself. I would record it when I was in my apartment. They were having me speak it a lot, and it was really for the healing purposes, communication with my guides and working with my energy and healing. So they had told me when I was done with it, they're like, you're going to put symbols in the mermaid's tail. And I'm like, what do you mean? Now, I'm all alone. My boyfriend at the time was building a house upstate. He wasn't even home. So I didn't even have my Chester yet. I was by myself. So I was like, okay, I really had nothing to lose. Those 55 symbols literally poured out on the paper.
Wow, I'm going to try to zoom in on that a little bit.
Yeah, it was without hesitation.
Wow.
And yeah, I was surprised, and it was a true channel because there was no thought behind it. Like I said, I surrendered, said okay, and it literally came out. So
cool.
Yeah. So
you know what? I love getting this story because I looked at the website, right, and I was loving the notebook, the picture of the notebook, which has all of the definitions of all these symbols. But now even you're taking it even back further to the origin of where they came from. And Jennifer Rose is asking, where can we get your cards? I'm gonna put up your website at the bottom there, alienstarseed.com. That's where you can see much more about Cassandra and Alien Starseed.
Thank you, Jennifer. So I was like, oh my God. And I wrote them all on a piece of paper, and the definitions came out within a few days for all of them. But I was calling my family because I was so excited. I'm like, pick a number, pick a symbol. Cool. I'm like, let me give you a meaning. So cool.
That's awesome. I love the whole idea that it's not a tarot deck, but a deck of cards and meanings just kind of came out. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's like almost like another derivative of the poetry that I was writing, and went back into that because as I'm channeling and writing the meanings that are collaborating with that's going to be my third deck, but I had to share
a different deck. Okay.
So I have 2 decks out now and a third one coming, which is the New Moon Rising. And, you cannot rush what Spirit wants completed. And the New Moon Rising, I believe, is going to be for 2025. But it's the New Moon Rising within. What's important to know is that these Oracle card decks were about the emotions and experiences that I was going through. All of my artwork is a derivative of my healing work. And that is the purpose, to deliver it to humanity for others to be able to relate to it so that they can heal as well. The whole purpose of Alien Starseed, which, I wasn't in the understanding until like after the facts. And I'm like, and doing those fairs really, really helped to understand that, because you could just let people just sit and look and absorb with no pressure. Sure. See what they're relating to.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about light language in general. It's like it's almost like there's no specific meaning to it, because it's meant for whoever's taking it in to get what they're supposed to get from it, right? Yeah. And that might be different for 2 people who are standing right next to each other.
I'm going to tell you, it's a derivative of the collective heart. And it is there to truly help heal humanity. And it's there in deliverance for that understanding as well.
Sure. And you know what? This goes back to what I was saying too about the idea of how ETs and angels are all different expressions of the same thing. I think light language comes through in many ways, right? So even for yourself, I'm imagining, because we haven't discussed this yet, but like I love the symbology, right? The symbols that we were just looking at in the notebook. That this I love, and I also love that I'm seeing this from a lot of different people that I feel are authentically connecting, and I'm seeing very similar styles, right, evolving and coming through. But also the idea of like we were talking about Sarah Curley, I can remember she spoke light language and she had like these motions that went with it, and that's another expression, the different motions that happen. But then she started to actually sing, um
Mm.
and I see that also happening. I see people who have come into these gifts and these understandings of their own connections start to express them this way, like in people who were singers before, but now it's coming through in a different way, or maybe they never sang at all, and
Yeah.
suddenly they've got this voice happening and these things happening. I mean, it's amazing. So is that happening with you? Do you do sound healings with your voice and things like that?
When I do healings that will come through, they have me come in with the Om, and there are certain words and languages that they'll have me speak while I'm doing those healings. So the voice is huge. It's having that derivative. And I also feel that when I'm doing that, my voice gets deeper. I feel it going down into the solar plexus,
Oh
especially
wow.
when we're together with like-minded people. I could feel that shift, that change, like it coming down, coming from the solar plexus when you're doing that. So, oh yes, I understand.
So does that mean like you feel like the information that's coming out of you is more connected and more channeling directly, and then that's you feel the difference in frequency of like, ooh, this information is coming from this different place?
Absolutely. You could feel it on
That's
like an
awesome.
energetic level. You could feel it through your body.
I
Mhm.
love that. I love that. And I love that people are starting to understand that and be in tune with different expressions of energy, right? Whether it be a
Mhm.
physical thing, whether it be an emotional thing, whether it be a scent, you know what I mean? There are
Mhm.
so many different ways that these things are expressed, and I love that it's opening up. It's really opening up to all sorts of different people. So it's great, and I want to say hi. I see Michael Christopher out there, and I love looking at sometimes the chat room. It's not people talking to me or you, they're just like talking to each other and like, how's it going? And so I
It's
love that. So
nice.
thank you
Yeah.
everybody for being here and partying with us. And Cassandra, your story is amazing. I love it. Let's take a look at some of your artwork. Maybe you can bring us through some of the things that we're looking at. First of all, let's take a look at this deck here. So this is was this your first deck?
That's the very first deck, extraterrestrial healing oracle cards.
Hmm. Awesome. And so again, this is what I thought I was looking at when I saw the notebook. I thought that was this set of symbols, but that was a similar thing. It was the symbols came through, and then each symbol kind of represented a specific thought or philosophy or message that would be intended for someone when they pull that card, right? Or when that
Yeah.
card comes up for them. Yeah,
Yes.
that's amazing. I love the way energy works like that, and like that where we are divining new methods, right? Like divining those rods, right? Like divining rods, like we're coming up with new methods. And Orny Layton, also people who are just like, this stuff is, it seems like it's pouring out of you guys, right? Like it's just like
Mhm.
you're there for it, so it's coming out of you. And then it must be so awesome when somebody buys one of your decks and tells you about their experiences with them and the messages that come through for them.
It's the hugest honor. Actually just got a message this week. I had somebody who actually purchased both decks, and she just purchased the Goddess deck. And the message that she gave me and how it's relating to her just filled my heart completely. Just knowing that, like, because all the hard work that we put into it, our heart and soul and all the love, and to see other people receiving the love from them, it just makes all the work so worth it.
Mhm.
So worth
Totally.
it.
Totally. I
Mm,
love that. I love that.
mm,
I've definitely got to, I think, meditate a little bit more.
Every day.
Yeah,
Every day, people.
I think, well, I mean, specifically, I'm thinking about like, okay, like I said, I was envious, right? Like I haven't gotten that message, right? I haven't gotten
Mhm.
that phone call, and I think it's probably, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm just responding, right, to the whole idea, and I'm like, maybe I'm not taking enough accountability and meditating every day, like you said, and asking every day, like, okay, what is this? Because the reason I'm saying that is because I'm a photographer. I have some artwork. I've shared it on the channel.
Yeah.
I started doing images of projection. So I have a projector and I would project on a model. I think we spoke about this. I was going to do some of this with you.
Yes.
And we still can.
Mhm.
And then in working with those images on the computer, again, this was a moment of channeling, right? I was looking at one of the images and something told me to just flip it, right? So that I had this symmetry going. And then I was like, oh, that looks really cool. And I started like
Mhm.
feeling it and going with the flow. And then eventually I had like a kaleidoscopic version of that image. And I was like, oh, this looks like a mandala. And then I was like, oh, but it's a human. And then I was like, I love play on words. And I came up with human dollar. It's a human dollar. And
Mm.
so I have a bunch of these artworks, and I'm like, there's got to be messages in these, there's got to be
They're beautiful.
something. So
Mhm.
I think again, it's my accountability to meditate and pull those out, right? And because I have thought of like these would make a cool deck. As a matter of fact, not to get into it too much, but the story is that I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I should make a tarot deck, right? And I had no idea like the difference between a tarot deck and an angel deck and an oracle deck. And then I met this guy, Brian. I don't know if he's out there, Brian. He's a wizard, he's a shaman, he's amazing.
Mm.
And he
Beautiful.
has an incredible tarot deck, but showed me the depth of what it means. And I was like, oh wait, I'm not there, and I don't want to just put out artwork and not honor the intention of what it would be, right? Because the intention would be to have messages, and I don't want to just that. You can't fake that, you know what I mean? I think you've got to really, that's got to be authentic.
I'm going to tell you, if you already have the idea that this is what this is going to be, meditate. Spirit is going to guide you on where it's supposed to be. If it's supposed to be a beautiful book with
Mhm.
messages, if that's what it's supposed to be, if it's supposed to be a deck for people to use for healing or channeling or daily affirmations, Spirit is going to drive you there. They
Mhm.
have already given you the idea, they have given you the gift. So
Yeah,
now you just continue and they will show you the way.
yeah. No,
Mhm.
I agree with you. I'm inspiring myself. I'm being inspired by you, and just the idea of you know accountability.
Yeah.
Just the idea
You
of
know what
that. I
I'm gonna
mean,
tell you? Don't be so hard on yourself. This is supposed to be the flow of love, the flow
mhm,
of compassion and understanding yourself and allowing yourself to heal and just being in the love emotion while you're doing this and being easy on yourself.
right.
So, yeah, so like I like
I
the word
appreciate that.
accountability, but sometimes I feel like it could be derogatory. Allow
Right.
yourself to flow, be in forgiveness and understanding and saying, you know what? Now is the time. I'm going to just do my meditations every day, clear my chakras, find your element. What is your element? Is it in nature? Is it water? Is it
Mhm,
fire? Is it earth?
mhm.
Is it the air? Because that is where it's going. That's where your creative juices are really going to start to flow when you get into that element. Because when I'm by the water,
Yeah.
I am so free. It's like the mermaid soul is out and it's just like I'm a different being.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually go with that too, because I feel like I definitely have an attraction to the ocean and to being
Mm,
by the water. Can certainly tune into the energy, of it. I think also when I try when I have conversations or thoughts about what is consciousness, right, and all of this stuff,
mm,
and what is existence, the idea of we're all one.
yes.
The best way I can wrap my head around it as a human being is water, in that a drop of the ocean is the entire ocean.
Yes.
And so water is very significant in that way, I believe, for sure. And Jesse is out there. What's up, Jesse? Saying, praise the mermaid spirits and the ocean. What's up,
Mm,
Jesse? Welcome to the live stream.
thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, this is awesome. Oh my God, I can't even believe we're like at 9:50. We
Where's
haven't
the
even
time
I haven't
go?
even begun to like talk to you about this all. So all right, so let's continue. I want to show people your artwork, and again, maybe you can talk about the meanings and everything, because I feel like that's something I can really relate to with you as that, right? As this creative person who is channeling things. I feel like your meanings are pretty specific and relate
Yeah.
to who you are, very, very closely. So
Hmm.
I don't know if that's uh, where you want to start, or if you want to tell me to go more towards these images.
We can start wherever you'd like.
All right. So actually, I'm going to start. I think these were some of the first images that I saw, because you had these at the show or
Okay.
something or similar. So let's start here. Okay. What are you gonna tell me what we're looking at, and where this came from and what it means?
Okay. I don't see them yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at it. I'm like, what are you waiting for? Meanwhile, I've got it up on my screen, but you don't have it up on your screen. There we
You're
go.
funny. Oh, that's my beautiful goddess series. So the goddess series is a 3-part, and the one that you have up is goddess number 3.
Mhm,
So this is the end of her discovering her higher self, getting into her inner strength. This is when her hair is down, free flowing. She's finally has her soul free and is able to look into her Akashic record and read her soul in peace,
mhm,
find her inner being, and delve into the light that she truly is.
mhm.
So the first goddess was
Have that. I think
okay,
is that
there she is. So she was very interesting. I had that. She's the cover of my second deck, The Rising Sun. And that deck actually sat for like a year and a half before I was able to put it out, because it was everything that I was working through within. And one day I was at work and I was working in the quantum field, listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza. I just asked for something mystical. I didn't ask for anything. And, I'm listening to the music while I'm doing my work. I close everything up and I'm driving on the LIE. All of a sudden she pops up in my car,
Hmm.
and someone had to take over the wheel because I'm seeing this gorgeous, beautiful being with this long flowing hair. And I'm like, oh my God, please don't let me forget this. Please let me get this on paper when I get home. And I
Wow.
didn't
While you're driving.
while I'm driving.
Oh my God.
It was another experience. I was like, holy cow, no one's going to believe this. I was like, oh my God.
It's got to
And
be overwhelming. Yeah.
it was so beautiful though, and so cool. So I'm like, oh, please don't let me forget it. So I was able to get her on the paper, but only after the fact did I realize that this was a derivative of my higher self.
Mhm,
Only after that I got her on the paper and I painted her, and everyone's like, she looks like you. I'm like, she does?
mhm,
I didn't
mhm.
even
Absolutely.
realize what I was doing.
Mhm,
And she was the awakening. I had just gotten out of a really abusive relationship. I was with him for 7 years, and it was like he had the stronghold on me. It was a
mhm,
terrible situation that I don't wish upon anybody. And it was a really, really hard place to get out of. But I was
mhm,
finally able to get out of it. I got myself out of it in a safe way. And I was working through again more layers, working through more emotions, and understanding why I allowed this to happen. What was it inside of me that I felt that I was lacking, that I needed to continue this or allow this to continue.
mhm,
The
mhm,
goddess was born. The goddess was born. And little did I know that she was going to be a series of 3 of what my life was going through. So the second
mhm.
one,
I think I have that one. Hold on. Yep. Is
there
that?
she is. And this all came through like 3 years. So it was like a year, a year, a year. And I didn't even realize, like when I'm drawing, the spirit's just channeling and I'm drawing things. And I didn't even realize the bottom looks like an engagement ring after the fact when I'm painting it. And I'm like, yeah, because she's blossoming from the engagement. She's finally able to engage in life. She's in the engagement. Her
Mm,
wings are spread. Yeah, they're not perfect. They're torn and tattered, but they're still tethered together by that beautiful web of the earth.
mhm,
and her galactic form. Her hair is free. She's spreading her wings. She's flying. She's understanding who she is, and she's not in fear anymore.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
She's not in fear.
That's awesome. So you bring up a good point, and I've heard this before about people's spirit guides being higher aspects of themselves. What
Yeah.
what do you have? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So, our higher self communicate with us all the time. We are living in fractals. It's not just this being and this soul in this body. We are communicating with one another. We are connecting with each other. When we connect, we're connecting with our higher self and our spirit guides. We are not separate from anything. As far as the higher self goes, we can connect with our higher self at any time. There's been times where I've seen myself in my clothing saying to myself, everything's going to be okay. We already know. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this as well. I remember him talking about a time where he said he was washing dishes and he saw himself out in like his garden with his beautiful cape on, and it was the other fractal of himself and that other dimension and that higher self.
Yeah. I just saw an amazing quote right before we went on. Coincidence? I think not. Right? By I believe his name is Benoit Mandelbrot. Right? Who is the Mandelbrot set is a fractal, and the saying was that a fractal is a visual expression. If you can see a fractal, you can see infinity. A fractal is like a visual expression of infinity, and I love that idea of that, because that kind of for Angelo, who was talking about what is time, is that the idea that everything is happening all at once. Time, there is no past, there is no future, it's all one thing. That's also can, I think, be expressed as a fractal, right? And I just think a fractal is a beautiful expression of that, of the idea.
Yeah.
Marty says there are no coincidences. Yeah, I don't think so either.
No.
Yeah, and I think I've always been fascinated with fractals, even as a kid, just because I was always a visual artist, right? And fractals were always kind of a very visual thing. But anyway, so let's get back to the goddess set, your artwork. So we saw the 3 goddess representations.
Yeah.
And is that the more newer stuff, or is some of this mermaid stuff?
That's the goddess series is the newer stuff. I have a slew of paintings that I have working. Spirit likes to have me work on like several things at once. So I have like 3 paintings that I'm working on right now. But this beautiful painting is frequency shifts. And another derivative of the higher self, but this goes more deeply into the soul origin and her responsibility here on earth. We all have all of these beautiful different gifts: psychic, medium, healer. But our gifts, intuitive artist, but our gifts go way beyond that. We have a lot of work to do. Yes, aspects of our truth. So not only am I working on my intuitive art and giving psychic readings and doing beautiful healings, but I'm also working on Mother Gaia. I'm also working with the water, working with the earth. What does Gaia need? She's the beautiful soul that keeps this earth alive, and she needs us. That is the purpose of a lot of the soul origins that are here in the galactic form, is to take care of Gaia, protect her. So when it comes to spirituality, soul origin, it goes so much deeper than just the intuitive gifts, right? We now have a responsibility, as you open up to this, to take care of the planet that you live on, because it's not only a reflection of here, but it's also a reflection beyond. And this is the purpose of Council and the Federation being so present at this time.
And so maybe we could get into that a little bit. Is there a specific significance for Earth?
A significance of Earth?
Yeah, like what is the significance of humanity and this moment in
Mm.
time? I mean, maybe that's too vague of a question, but I feel like,
No, we're here developing an Earth school. And as they talk about the shift, this is the reason for the different soul origins being here or more coming in. And as more soul origin of the galactic form come in, it's helping to balance out that energy that's here on Earth, right?
Mhm,
That's where the shift is coming from because the shift is all energetic. It's
mhm,
energy shifts. That's what's going on here.
mhm,
Um, as we were talking about earlier in the very beginning, it's all about awareness and awakening. As we all are coming to awakening, or those who are already awakened, we hold the space for those who are ready to, so that they can begin their path, go through their awakening, and start their healing journey as well. Because we need as many love soldiers as possible on this planet to protect
mhm,
her and
mhm.
to protect humanity. You like how I said love soldiers?
Yes. No, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to figure out what to do with this all, right, just the idea that I have this platform now, I have this show, I get to talk to people who think differently, right,
Mhm.
and what do I do? Like, besides enjoy the hell out of it, right, because
Yeah.
I really enjoy the hell out of it. But what I'm thinking now is like, I guess it's something that I also am trying to navigate all the time, right? Which is the 3D existence, right? Which we have to be in, which we are in right now, versus the knowing that there's more than that, right? And the idea that knowing that the physical doesn't even exist, right? Or does it, right? That's another conversation. That's a whole other thing to explore. But I guess my question to you is, how do you find that balance, right, between
Appreciation. And I'm
Mhm,
going to tell you, and I didn't have that appreciation in the beginning because I did
mhm,
not like humanity. I
mhm,
did not like where I was living. I wanted to go home.
mhm,
I
mhm,
did not want to be here
mhm.
until I really understood the depths of the purpose of my soul and my soul origin and what I was here to do and what I was here to complete. Now I never want to leave. I don't want to leave until my mission is complete. And when it's complete, I want to come back to make sure everything's okay.
That's awesome.
And it's
That's awesome.
compassion. Yeah. We all have different responsibilities here. We all have
Yeah.
different jobs to do, and it's important. So that's why, it's so important to meditate every day. Get
Mhm.
into your awareness when it is your time so that you know what your mission is and you're fulfilling purpose.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
You know what? I love what you're saying, and it's funny because I feel like this is why we relate, right? Because I'm like, I knew I liked her, right? And this is, but it's my own perception of what you just said. It's my own experience of what you just said, and that is, you said I didn't like humanity. I didn't know. I didn't want to be here, right?
No.
So for me, many years ago, I walked around. I had this attitude. I knew what it was all about. You know what I mean? And I said 95% of the people that I meet are morons. They have no idea what it means to be a human being on a planet with other human beings. They just don't get that we're all in it together, what I was saying earlier. Like, they don't get it. 95% of the people just don't get it. And
Mhm.
I was pretty miserable. Like, I that's what I got, most of the time. That's what I would get. And then I realized, and I started to take accountability for that thought and believing that. And I was able to start to look for the beautiful things in people. I was able to start believing that people are good, and my whole life changed. You know what I mean? I didn't believe that anymore. Somehow I said, wait a second, there's got to be more. I guess I started finding more people that I believed in, and then I was like, oh wait, there are people like this. But it was really my own belief that was making my reality, was creating my reality.
Yeah, yeah. The more I came into my awareness, the more my compassion and empathy grew because how could
Mhm.
you get mad at somebody who doesn't understand, who has never learned? It's like having a child and getting mad at the child because they don't know how to tie their shoes. But if you don't teach them, they're not going to know.
Right.
So hold the
No,
space.
that's also, yeah, also a big key. And not only that, not only like you didn't teach them so they don't know, it's the things that we are taught that are
Yes.
completely like the opposite of what it should be, right? And
Yeah, there's a lot of unlearning that had to be done, and a lot of unlearning for myself as well. You
right,
know, a lot of unlearning and relearning.
right. Oh man. So I don't feel like I got the answer to my question, but I don't, that
Oh,
doesn't, don't feel pressure because I don't know if there even is an answer to the question. And I do want to kind of let everyone go to bed. It's I try to go for an hour without, getting people too tired. But the idea of just knowing that there is no physical reality, but having to exist in it. How do you do it? How do you do that?
so
Need
I'm
some
going to
help.
tell you this. We are a soul having a human experience, right? So
Mhm.
once you get an understanding of your soul origin, understanding that this is a light body having this human experience, appreciate this
Oh, you
beautiful
did
body.
answer it. Okay, right. You
Yeah,
reminded me.
but
Yes.
But the most important thing, Michael, is appreciate it because this can be gone in a second. This is a gift to be here, to have these experiences being a human being and having all, I know sometimes people don't realize that, but to have all of these experiences, to be able to love people, to be able to experience childbirth, to be able to experience compassion and empathy, to touch things, to be able to eat delicious food, to be able
Yeah.
to have intimate relationships. This doesn't exist everywhere. We're here to absorb, to understand, to nurture, to love, to
Yes.
experience.
You know what? It's funny because I'm like, wait, I didn't get the answer to my question, and I really did get the answer to my question. And
Okay.
you're right, and that's what I was saying about. That's what made me go into my story about looking at 95% of the people a certain way. It's appreciation. Now I appreciate the differences. I appreciate, right? Instead of looking at you and being like, "What do you mean you're from another planet?" I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so cool. Tell me more." You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I'm excited about it. I appreciate it much more, and I think that answer was spot on. So I take it back. You made me realize that
Okay.
I was being impatient. I wanted my answer, but I had already had my answer, which is the case I think for everybody. I think people are seeing that it's winding up. Thanks, Cassandra and Michael, for a brilliant show. Grace, thanks you for always being there, watching on both platforms, liking and sharing and all the things that you do. Arnie as well, thank you guys. Courtney Lopez, one of my new favorite viewers, she's here all the time. I love that. Helen's back. Great to see Jesse. Good to see you. I don't know. Welcome. I'm glad to see some new names. I love that. Subscribe if you liked what you saw. Tell your friends about it. Share it the next time. Cassandra, you're freaking awesome. I definitely want to talk some more to you. Maybe I'll have you back. Maybe it'll be, just on the outside of this, talking about your website. I love your website. It's down there at the bottom of the screen for people who
I would love that.
enjoyed this and want to know more. And next week I actually have another visitor from that was stopped by at the show. Lisbeth from Bella Luna Healing is
Whoa.
stopping by, and that was awesome because I had my booth, my wall right here was set up, and she was right on the other side of it, and we would be talking, and I would hear her. Ooh, I would hear her singing, and it would just fill me up. It's awesome. Jesse's part of the crew. Jesse, you're part of the crew now. Which is awesome. So next week I'm going to have her on the show. Cassandra, again, thank you so much for being here. We finally did it, and I'm sure we will talk again and see
Absolutely.
each
Thank
other.
you, Michael.
Yes, thank you everybody for being here on this wonderful Thursday, December 5th. Remember the date, remember the moment. If you were here, it was awesome, and I will see you guys next week. Peace.
Take care.